This is Jpar.
This is Myles.
Hey guys, Da Boo here.
And this is the new review. This week, we review Doctor Strange, the new Marvel movie that just hit theaters. It's a grand old magic time.
Did you say theaters?
I did. Why? Theaters?
Oh, that's even weirder.
How should I be saying it?
Theaters is not a word.
Say it for me, please.
Theaters.
At the theater?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I never heard of theater. Forget it. I'm sorry.
Grand old magical flick being released by Marvel, now in theater.
Shouldn't it be plural? I don't think it was the S that was bothering. It was that enunciating the
What
A.
was it? The theater. Like, I've never heard of that before.
It doesn't matter how I say it.
Kind of.
But now in theaters. Is that good?
It's better.
Is that sufficient?
Just a tad better.
Ugh, terrible. Anyways, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Rachel McAdams, Chiwetel. How do you say that one? Chiwetel Ejiofor?
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I read.
Poor guy.
God
Sorry,
damn. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Brutally his name.
Wow. Wow.
I'm sure it's not that hard to pronounce it, but the one who plays Mordo.
Yep.
Thanks. Benedict Wong, who coincidentally plays Wong, and Mads Mikkelsen and Tilda Swinton, plus a few other people.
Not worth mentioning.
Well, you know, that I listed quite a bit there. Those are pretty much your stars of your movie right there. Now, so Doctor Strange, yes, does belong to this grand MCU that we've been, I think, pretty much enjoying up to this point. Now, does Doctor Strange fit amongst those other Marvel movies as legends? Is it a meh, or is it a ugh? So, we're here to kind of discuss that. Yes, I brought back the monster groaning from the Young Frankenstein episode.
Is that how we're rating this now?
We're gonna today's episode is gonna be rated in grunts. I'm just kidding. So you just like grunt how many times you, how many stars you want to give it? Never mind.
No, we're not doing that.
No?
Not at all.
Damn.
Nice try though.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Trying to make it cool.
I'm trying. I'm trying to make this cool, guys. I'm trying to make it cool for all of you. All right. So, without further ado, let's start talking about Doctor Strange. Let's do a little intro because I believe there's a lot of people who aren't familiar with this Doctor Strange character as they are with maybe some of the Avengers or Spider-Man or some of the other Marvel favorites.
So, Doctor Strange was created back in 1963 by Steve Ditko for Strange Tales, which was a series of comics through Marvel that, well, I guess it was I don't even know how to describe it. It was kind of not famous at the time. It was kind of like short runs of different comic
So kind of
book
like
heroes.
how Amazing Fantasy number 15 was for Spider-Man. It was just kind of like an intro to that character. They only had small stories. Even Thor debuted in Tales of Astonishment, I want to say.
Well, it was kind of like a testing ground for superheroes.
Yeah.
So if it tested well, if it sold well, if people were interested, then they gave them their own run and
So they had a lot of these kind of different ones. There's like Tales of Astonishment, Amazing Fantasy, any others. The one what's the one that Doctor Strange debuted in? Tales of Mystery.
Well, no, he was in Strange Tales.
Okay, there you go. So even Tales of Mystery, I believe, is another one that they did. Many of these, had science fiction or magic. I think, it was kind of like a side thing to test out characters before they brought them into, I guess, the main fold, where you had, like, guys like Captain America and the Fantastic Four already established.
But we got people like Warlock. He's a very popular person. Brother Voodoo. He became the Sorcerer Supreme in Doctor Strange's replacement. Doctor Strange disappeared for a bit. Cloak and Dagger.
They're also magic users?
They're also magic users, and they came from Strange Tales as well. So Strange Tales did launch quite a few famous comic book superheroes, if you will.
All right. For the people watching this movie, you don't really need to know all of that, but if you are a comic fan, it might be just some interesting little details for you. For what you do need to know for this movie is that Stephen Strange is a brilliant surgeon, kind of arrogant, and he is the best at his job. To the point where he picks and chooses who he's going to operate on next. He likes a challenge, right? So, certain people aren't worth saving. Like I said, he's a bit arrogant. He gets into an accident, he can no longer use the use of his hands. And then he starts learning about magic.
It was kind of by accident, though. A
little spoilery, but we're not going to do too many spoilers. I just want to get that because this is the non-spoiler portion.
Well, he didn't go in search of magic. He went in search to heal his hands.
He didn't realize what he found when he found it, basically.
So when Western medicine failed him, he went to the East looking for...
Even this is kind of leaning on spoiler town, but it's kind of your introduction to the character if you don't know him. I wouldn't consider this too much of a spoiler because in a way this movie is all an origin story. We're not going to tell you, specific details in this part of it any further than that. So, what are your first impressions of Doctor Strange? Myles, go first.
It was a great movie. I find Marvel's first outings are hit and miss. Iron Man was great, and then Thor was kind of and Captain America was so this one for me as a beginning, a starter movie, it was probably amongst one of the best intro to characters that I've seen yet.
Yeah, it was I thought it was a brilliant introduction to this character as well. It really reminded me of how, the first Iron Man just here's your character. Here's what he does, and something bad happens to him, and he has to change his life around. And it really plays on the character as opposed to the hero that he becomes. Or later on you find out they're one and the same after.
Well, I guess you could say, without giving away spoilers, this is basically Iron Man 1 with magic. Same idea, you got a rich, pompous a-hole who has to basically turn his whole life around, and he gets superpowers out of the deal.
He needs to be humbled, to a certain extent, exactly.
He needs to hit rock bottom, is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And they did a good job portraying that. He really did hit rock bottom, so...
And what did you think of Benedict Cumberbatch's performance in this?
I've always loved him in everything he does. He has such a commanding performance on screen. His voice is super low and deep, and when he says something, it's just so convincing. It's so real.
Yeah,
so
when he talks, he almost just enchants you by talking.
Yes.
So to say that he's a magician doesn't almost seem that much of a stretch.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Every time he was on screen, you wanted to see what he was going to do next, and he was actually surprisingly funny. I don't think I've seen him be funny yet.
I think I gotta agree with you on that. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching the movie. When I was watching the movie, watching the Marvel money. So when I was watching the movie, I was thinking the same thing. It's I've never seen him funny. He's always been so dead serious. But he's so intense in his roles, and this one is no different.
I think that's part of the problem, actually, is that he's got such a powerful presence, especially as when it comes to personalities. As an actor, he is one of those presences in the room that tends to be a bit strong. I don't know if humor would be something I'd expect from him, actually, more often than not. So you're right, yeah, there is a light humor to this, which is nice.
Well, look at the characters he's played. He's played Khan in Star Trek. There's a very commanding, very powerful character. Mm-hmm. He played Sherlock Holmes in Sherlock Holmes. He's the lead there, which is another very smart, very commanding character.
That's the BBC version, not the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes.
That's correct, yes. So yeah, every performance I've seen him in, he's always been either the lead or he's been very powerful, very just amazing to watch all around, start to finish.
Speaking of parallels between Tony Stark and Stephen Strange, and Benedict Cumberbatch and
he's following
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he's following Robert Downey Jr.'s career very closely, apparently.
All right, so I was the acting was great. The special effects I thought were pretty good. Maybe I thought it was gonna be more Inception-like, Not really sure, but I think it was the right amount of weird and the right amount of, the right amount to like pull you in without leading you astray. You know what I mean? Like, it pulled you in because you got involved in the Stephen Strange character. And as his performance went on, I thought that just got better. But we can talk about more of that later. So, yeah, I guess this is where we got to give our rating, right? Without giving away a spoiler.
What about Boo? What'd you think?
Well, there's a lot of things I could kind of gripe about. Here's the one thing I love about this particular Marvel movie of ours. It's a completely fresh point of view. So for me, I can come in knowing that even though I'm not overly familiar with the character, I'm vaguely familiar. I can honestly say it was a nice surprise. So for me, it was actually really nice to see visually something different on screen. Because when they started presenting to us certain aspects of the world of magic, simply said, visually speaking, there's nothing to reference with. It's everything's based on the sheer imagination, and I feel like I really love how again they pulled out elements directly from the comics from Steve Ditko, along with, in my opinion, the kind of effects that we're starting to see in a lot of the Marvel movies now. They're very cosmic, very epic. We saw it very well done in Guardians of the Galaxy, in a lot of ways.
And the thing is, we had to once again. DC needs to take note because we built up to get to this point in Marvel where we're at magic now. You can't just throw magic in the mix and be like, what the heck is going on? This is a new character, and don't go into this movie expecting me like, oh, you're going to see Avengers all over the damn place. That's not a thing. You got to go in this movie. You're going to learn about Doctor Strange. You don't know about Doctor Strange? You're going to learn about Doctor Strange in this movie, and you're going to learn how magic affects the Marvel Universe, because now that this movie is out, the Marvel Universe is so much different now that they've introduced that portion of the universe into the MCU. So, with all of that being said, anyone care to give it a rating without giving any spoilers away just yet?
To end with my comments, I kind of feel like I only want to give it about a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It wasn't strong enough to actually be an impactful movie, but it was a strong enough origins movie that I feel comfortable with the character now. I don't know how I feel like how he fits within the rest of the Marvel mold. Yeah, that's my biggest problem of all. I'm anticipating to see how they'll put him to use. That's what I'm really anxious for, but at the same time, I'm a little concerned because it's kind of like how you pointed out. Marvel had to build up to this. Magic in itself is a completely different entity from like superpowers, so to speak. So we almost tend to lump the two in separate categories before they start to cross over in their own time. But I love the fact that it was still a nice, true, honest origins movie.
And I feel like a lot of people might be confused. Be like, what are you talking about? Superpowers are magic. It's like, no, it's not. Watch the movies. You'll know what I mean. Like, science is very much involved in most people getting their powers. And this is make magic. It's different. I don't know how else to explain it. Miles, go.
Well, I would agree with Boo and his rating. 3.5 definitely sits perfectly well for me because it does have rewatchability. It's just, like you said, I don't know where it fits in the universe just yet. And they made it really hard to figure it out because you don't know what time this is taking place in. There's little hints that there is Avengers out there, but they don't really tell you where. Is this pre-Civil War? Is it post-Civil War?
It's after Civil War.
See, how do you know that?
I don't know if they intend...
Should we talk about it though before
Let's talk about it in spoilers.
Okay.
Let's get your rating first.
3.5.
Okay.
Is where I'd set it.
Okay. The last 2 days after we went and saw it, I was been trying to think what I want to give this movie. I feel like it deserves a 4, but I can't give it a 4. And the reason why I want to give it a 3.5 is because I don't know how good this movie is going to be when I rewatch it. I have a feeling it might actually get better when I rewatch it. It might be like a Winter Soldier. It's all right at first, then the more I watch it might get better. It's still very solid, and that's why I want to give it that 4. I think it's a great introduction to the character, and I think it was just a great movie from beginning to end. It's not a perfect movie, just as all movies are not usually generally perfect, but it is a damn solid start to a character. And even if you're not into the Marvel Universe, and maybe you're coming in from the Harry Potter crowd, or someone that's more like magic centric, maybe this is more your introduction into the Marvel universe with this character. Maybe you'll get something a little more out of this than what I did. I still think it's a great, solid movie, but for some reason I just don't want to give it that extra 0.5 just yet. I think if I rewatch it, maybe I'd want to give it that 4, but I feel like it doesn't deserve it yet.
I think once we start to get into spoiler town and we start talking about what we didn't like, your 3.5 will make more sense to you, because maybe. I did the same thing last night and I did the same thing today. It was on the cusp, but it just didn't get there.
All right, so let's flip over into spoiler town. Myles, sounds like you had something to say.
Well, do you want the best and the worst?
Okay, so let's talk about why I say it's Civil War. We'll get that, and then we'll get to the best and the worst later. We can debate a bit.
Okay.
So the reason why I say it's after Civil War, now I don't know if they did this intentionally or not, or if it was meant to imply that it was Rhodes that they were talking about, because they're going through the jobs that he had to, like the medical stuff that he had to do.
Right.
He was basically picking and choosing who he wanted to operate on, and one of them, I think they said, I didn't quite get it.
I didn't get it either,
but it was something about a Marine in a bodysuit or something, in some sort of almost sounded like it was Rhodes.
To me, it sounded like it was a Justin. Is it Justin Hammer?
Justin Hammer, yeah.
It sounded like that, because Justin Hammer, one of his guys, literally did get twisted right around.
Okay.
That was in Iron Man 2. That's what I got out of it. I'm like, oh, that's a Justin Hammer thing. Because it sounded like he said a failed prototype suit had an accident.
Oh, is that what it said?
Yeah, so to me...
Is that what it actually said?
Yeah, that's what I heard anyways. So it happened so fast, though. It was kind of like...
That's the funny thing, right? Because I was thinking about it, too, when I was leaving. Because I was like, okay... I almost thought, is that scene actually taking place after Civil War? Or did it happen sooner in the timeline, like that part where he gets his injury? Because there has to be a lot of time from when he's healing.
Well, that's the problem, is they don't give you that. They don't tell you when the accident happened. They don't tell you how long these surgeries are in between. And then they don't tell you how long his training is. And then they don't tell you at the end of the movie, what happened, where did all this time go, or was it even time? Because time is a big part of the movie. It's just like a blur. But
speaking of which, okay, go on, finish that thought.
That was it. Okay. I was just gonna say, time was my biggest issue.
Speaking of time being an important part of this movie, we got a glimpse at another Infinity Stone. So if you've been following the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if you're not, then why aren't you doing it yet? There's these Infinity Stones that Thanos is trying to collect, so basically to fit in his gauntlets, and eventually what we think will happen in the movies, he'll be killing some heroes. Not 100% for certain yet, because they're doing things differently in the movies, and we have yet to see this Disney Marvel kill a really, really significant character.
Well, I think once you get at Infinity War, all these guys have had a pretty good run.
Yeah, I think their contracts
Robert Downey Jr. has been in almost every single movie.
Well, how many has he
Captain
been in?
America, Thor, all these people have been just boop, back and forth. Black Widow, she's been in a bunch. So, she started in Iron Man 2. She's one of the OGs, if you will.
Yep.
So, to me, at that point, like you said, the contracts are up. They're going to start killing some people soon. And I'm totally cool with that, because this needs to have a climax.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This needs to have an end. Otherwise, all this build-up...
Wave 3 definitely has to end with someone leaving, at least a couple people leaving, and then someone taking over the mantle as maybe the leader, in the place of said Iron Man or Captain America going away.
And I would be totally cool with that. I am not married to any of these people playing those roles forever, and it'll have more meaning if these movies lead up to something that is a conclusion, not this never-ending train of money that they want. But
they know they can't do it, because the actors can't do the roles forever.
That's right.
At some point, they are going to have to pull the plug on certain actors playing certain characters and say, okay, it's like Chris Hemsworth, Like, clearly. You're too old to play Thor. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he can be almighty Thor, like Odin Thor.
He could be Odin Thor. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So
But I mean, even if he did it at that capacity, where he played a less significant role, and you kind of like hand down the reins to someone else who's, you know, another hero, kind of taking on that Thor mantle in a weird way. That's what they're doing in the comics now, anyway.
Jane Foster?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well,
she's gone.
She won't be back ever in the movies.
They screwed that one up.
It's funny that we had mentioned, you know, Thor and whatnot too, because that was a big part of what they had revealed at the end of the movie, right? With Thor and Stephen Strange meeting, you know, for the first time. I thought that was a really interesting fact to kind of tie it in quickly for the Marvel Universe, because we knew that out of all of the multiverses, you know, that they introduced us to in this one, reflected very much what I had gotten the feel out of when we saw the Thor movies, because they kind of did the same, right? Where, you know, they had access to all these multiverses in some ways to protect them, you know, which felt like it was already covering that. And then here come the Supreme Sorcerer, that, you know, or Sorceress.
The Sorceress Supreme.
Sorry, I'm getting it backwards here. And I just love the fact that it's a great lead up to, again, what for me was just the simple thing of getting introduced to Stephen Strange. Stephen's very much a character I had no familiarity with, other than that he was Doctor Strange. That's as far as it went for me.
They're going to call him Peter Baelish? He kind of looks like Peter Baelish a bit, with the white in the side.
He's got the facial hair.
Yeah. Could you imagine, because if you had Jean Grey in this movie, and he'd be almost sitting on Jean Grey.
Oh, that'd be too far. Okay.
Right.
Moving on.
Any hoots. Watch Game of Thrones, people. You'll get that joke.
Can I honestly say that to me the biggest gripe out of anything that really brought my ratings down to a 3.5 from a potential 4?
Yeah, let's go into the stuff.
Okay, let's get the best and the worst of this movie. Time to dig into Doctor Strange. Give me the best and the worst. Boom.
I just simply said, like, I love the fact that it was a memorable Origins movie, but right away I started noticing little things that reminded me too much of Disney. And I don't want to say that so much in a negative way, but
I know where you're going
because I kind of felt like it was too easy of a comparison to start noticing it. One of which of all is one of my favorites of what I loved about this movie, though, was out of all the characters,
your favorite character in the movie
happened to be the cape. The cape itself.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was a character. I don't know if Jay thinks it's funny.
Because he reminds me of the carpet from Aladdin.
Exactly.
Yeah!
Because
Awesome.
he has personality, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of funny that I was mentioning that in some of my favorite scenes in the combat moments, one of which was when I think it was a clouded area and Strange was really up close and personal with...
Let's say the Zealots. That's what they were, right? Caecilius and his men, right?
Caecilius.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where he couldn't see
Zealots.
even 2 feet in front of him, but the cape could. And it blocked the attack incoming from, that invisible dark blade, that was coming at him. So I just love the fact that, as I would call him, carpet now from here on in.
We just call him Cape. Come on, Cape. Let's go.
It was one of those things that to me was a nice shocking surprise.
With the cape,
I didn't expect it and didn't have. I knew that it had a mind of its own up to a point from the comics, but I didn't know exactly how far it went. I mean, it had to choose them, right, as they said.
Yep.
So I love that. So, but the fact that it immediately gave me that relation to a Disney movie, it just got to me, and I felt like, okay, that kind of reflected in my rating, right? It shouldn't do that. It really shouldn't. They could have done it in other ways, introduced the cape in such a fashion that still chose him, but didn't have to be so cartoony about it. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's like him running on the spot, and he's trying to grab the axe from like 5 feet away, and you realize what's going on. The cape is holding him back. But it's just as funny to watch because it's not something you'd expect in that same scene. 2 seconds ago is when it went to go and catch him as he went over the railing. And as Jay pointed out, one of his favorite scenes, I think, was when he would start to reveal, as he would float back up, and there's Doctor Strange on screen floating with his...
You took my thunder away, Boo.
I'm sorry. But it all tied into the same area. Like, I just love the fact that, the cape had so much more personality almost than...
That actually was one of my favorite scenes. And I'm not even like a Doctor Strange fan. Like, I didn't know really anything about Doctor Strange going into this. I knew of him, and I knew times when he teamed up with other Marvel characters. But other than that, I didn't have an association with him, aside to those characters that he teamed up with that I was already reading about. So I didn't really know too much about him. But yeah, when he goes down and the cape goes down and all of a sudden he just flies up with the cape, I got a little excited. Like I said, I'm not even a Doctor Strange fan, but I was like, yeah, Sorcerer Supreme!
That's like the equivalent of like, a hero jump.
Oh, he's gonna do the superhero landing!
Superhero landing. The hero jump, what did I call it?
From now on, known as the hero jump. Okay, so was that covering one of your least favorite about it?
Well, it was
how
the fact-
cartoony it was. It reminded you of Disney.
Well, the way they had introduced Cape, to us on scene, it could have been done in maybe a much more creative fashion that didn't seem to be so cartoony. Is probably the best word to put it. It had a nice little tone of humor that I didn't mind, but when I really think hard on it, I didn't like the fact that it immediately gave me that relation to a Disney movie. I don't want to start watching these Marvel movies knowing that Disney's a part of the project. No offense to Disney, I love their movies, but they have their own flair, their own personality, and I don't want to start seeing that bleed into our current Marvel ones.
Stop punching the computer.
Sorry.
So you're not a fan of Cape Blanchett? We got
Nah.
Oh, boy. Sorry, Kate. That's not. I said Cape, not Kate.
Cape
Yeah,
Blanchett.
Cape Blanchett, yeah. That's her name. It's a female.
It's a female. Yeah. So, what did you guys think of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One?
I liked her. I thought she was great.
Yeah, I didn't mind her at all.
Okay. What's your favorite Boo to wrap this up? Your least favorite.
Honestly, it wasn't so much at least her. I can't really pinpoint any. I think for me it was just because Cape will literally be for me the
cape of levitation.
The one part of the Doctor Strange personality that from here on end I'm going to look forward to just seeing just as much what the cape will do as much as what Steven will do. So that's what I will say.
So you're saying you
forward.
like the cape, but you don't like the cape.
Yeah, it's almost like a double-edged sword.
It's a hate-love.
It's a love-hate relationship here.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's got the right tone for humor, but it didn't feel right because
Disney's
it reminded me of
got you by
Disney.
the balls.
Well,
they hate it, but they love it. We
sorry
got
to say,
them right
but
where they want them.
What they did right was they captured the personality of an inanimate object, which I guess the fact that I translate that into reminding me of carpet, that's maybe not a bad thing. I just find it did affect my rating, though. Honestly, that's why I bring it up, because it wasn't to say that it was a bad thing. I loved the character, but I didn't feel like it was the way to introduce it.
Okay, so what is your favorite thing? And don't say cape.
All right. Well, all right. Maybe one of my favorite scenes, aside from that one, was actually the Ancient One when she was about to pass on, so to speak. It was almost like the lead up to seeing another side of her.
Lion King?
Stop that!
Okay.
She wasn't being held up, neither was she holding him up. I just love the fact that she got into this other tone of emotion that I guess I kind of expected when you're playing with magic and you see, the dark and light side. Speaking of Disney, and now we got Star Wars now thrown in a mix of this.
Yeah, we got Simba and Scar. Keep going.
But, she's introducing that she's taken upon herself the responsibilities of tapping into dark magic to keep the rest of them safe. That's a heroic deed, if you ask me. But the way they introduced her was almost like, oh, she could have been a villain. This whole time, she was really the one responsible for putting them, in peril. It wasn't so much the case. The peril was still coming. She just happened to open up her arms to someone who didn't see her point of view and decided to take, matters in his own hands. Hence, we got Caecilius. Thank you. I keep forgetting his name.
I know, he's got a weird name.
Played beautifully by
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads, yes, thank you. Yeah, I love actually how he brought his character on screen. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay. If I'm gonna go next, I guess my favorite scene, I think. Well, was that cape scene was pretty cool. I don't know if it's my favorite. I think my favorite actually is the weird acid trip he goes on, maybe. And just the weirdness. I think that's what I liked about this. I liked how original it was, and I thought that was brought out by the weird special effects that they displayed on screen. And that's what I liked, because when I saw images of Doctor Strange, I always saw him in these weird parallel dimensions that just didn't make any sense. It was just a bunch of colors and, kind of lines, but they kind of translated on screen, and it still looks weird. I don't know if you can really make anything out of it, but it's there, and it actually works somehow. So I thought the visual effects were interesting, and it really, I thought that was really good. The second thing, Benedict Cumberbatch's performance is just excellent. He's a great addition to the MCU as an actor. So I don't know if some people, they thought maybe his performance was, good or not in this movie. I really was drawn in by his character, and it was his acting that did it. At first, when I started watching, I'm like, okay, this is Benedict Cumberbatch, but as it goes on, I forgot he was Benedict Cumberbatch. That's a sign of a good actor. What is my least favorite?
It's not a perfect movie.
No, it's not. It's not.
To pick
there
upon.
definitely is, but I can't. I'm having a hard time picking something that just really bothered me. Usually there's something that just really, really bothers me. I can't find anything that really bothers me yet about it. But like I said, I didn't want to give it a 4, but even though I was so damn close to doing it. Here's the thing. It's I kind of did say that it pulls you in, but it doesn't lead you astray. It kind of does lead you astray a bit. Not everyone... This movie isn't going to be for everyone. And it's not going to be your typical Marvel movie. It's different. And you're going to have to get used to that. Even with the quirky humor in it. Like you said, maybe for Boo, you're saying that the quirky and the Disney-type humor maybe wasn't working for you, kind of thing.
Well, the fact that it immediately reminded me of another Disney element, again, is not so much a negative thing in itself, but it changed my perception on how serious I took this movie, right? Because Disney movies have that kind of way of being lighthearted, and that's perfectly fine. In a movie like this, I don't think it's the right method.
Mm-hmm. So. But I think my actual least favorite thing is kind of the role they gave to Amy Adams. It's not her fault. It's just... I just find the chemistry between them two is okay, but it's not like, I don't know, it doesn't push the movie that much more forward. There's a scene where she's operating on him and he's telling her how to do it by doing it through his ethereal form, which was pretty cool. But I mean, that could have been any nurse. Like, I don't think she's really a superior part of the movie. I find she's okay right now, but I find like she's gonna get lost in the mix like Jane Foster. You're just not gonna give a shit about her after. You'll be like, someone will be like, "Oh, where's Amy Adams?" And people will be like, "Who? I don't remember that character." It's kind of what it is with Jane Foster right now in the Thor movies.
I might disagree with the fact that she's not so much useless. I mean,
I'm not saying she's useless. I'm just saying
would have done
her
what
role isn't very big or significant. Like, you got an actress like Amy Adams. This is like someone who should be grounding this strange, weird Dr. Strange character, and I find their chemistry and what they do together isn't enough. I find what she does in the movie, it's not important enough. You could cut her stuff out, and I find it wouldn't even make that much of a difference.
You can't cut it out, though,
no,
because they do go back to the hospital a few times,
yeah.
And I'll admit, the times that they go, it's kind of like force-fed to you.
Yeah.
I almost feel like there could be like magical healers that would probably do a better job than, you know what I mean? Than Western medicine. It's kind of like he leaves Western medicine because it's not working. He goes to the East and then he goes right back to the West. But maybe it's because it's what he's familiar with and it's keeping you grounded, right? He was a surgeon. He'll always be a doctor.
You're right. It does keep him... Having that female like cohort is definitely keeps him grounded. So that is definitely a needed thing. I just feel her role could have been better in this.
Yeah, and she had less of a role than Pepper Potts, and she had less of a role than Jane Foster.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you with that.
And I feel like she should have a bigger role because Amy Adams is a good actress. And they could have maybe developed more of a relationship better between the two. I just felt they could have played that relationship off better. And it would have hit home better with the character. That's my gripe.
Okay.
I feel like this movie kind of fell victim to the same thing that some other movies have done to us. I think one of them in particular comes to mind is the new Star Trek Beyond movie. It was too much mashed together, and we were force-fed, so to speak, all of this information too quickly. It could have been just one of those moments, once again, where her character was significant enough to be responsible for bringing him back to life in that whole surgical room
that was the best scene between them.
Well, that was the only scene, in my opinion, that was significant enough for me to make her stand out for me, because you're absolutely right. She didn't have enough on-screen time for me to feel a connection between her and Steven. So for me, I agree with you there. However, I do feel like her character is very crucial because she's what draws him back down to earth almost. While he's out there exploring the spectral universes and the multiverses, so to speak, she's the only thing anchoring him back to the real world because that's the only reason why he would probably want to stay on Earth, to be honest with you. After you've been introduced to so much, why not, right?
Well, okay, then I guess my gripe is that it shouldn't be cut out. I guess my gripe is that it should be developed better.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's, again, another method they could have changed.
All right, and... actually, one more thing I want to say before I finish up my... there is one small thing that I did like. It's not a huge thing. I told you there was no Avengers flying in and out of the place in this movie, and that is true, and we did say that Thor's in the movie. It's in the after-credits scene, and that was perfectly done because we needed that. So anyone who's going there expecting to see Thor flying all over the place with Mjolnir smashing dudes, it's not gonna fucking happen. You do have to learn about Doctor Strange, and then when you wait later, you get your little end credit scene with Thor. And that was needed, I thought. Perfect. Go!
Okay, so good for me had to be all the magical trinkets that were floating around that place. They kept on just rhyming off this, that. It was hard to catch anything, but one thing really stood out for me, and that was the Staff of the Living Tribunal. When I heard that, I almost shit my pants, and I'm looking around the theater, and no one else heard it.
Yeah!
They heard the words, but it didn't have the same meaning.
Me and you were in the same boat, man.
Yeah.
I was like, Living Tribunal! And I was like shaking this guy's arm. He's like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about.
To me, by them saying that, opened up such a huge cosmic door that I really am excited to see what they do with it, because he is the second most powerful Marvel character to the One Above All. Like, the One Above All basically gave him all his power while he does whatever the hell he does. So it's really cool. Like, a lot of very powerful cosmic beings go to him and ask him to do things like, hey, Thanos is crazy right now. Are you going to do something about it? He's like, no, that's the natural order of things. Only the strong will survive. And it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. So if they go down that road, I'm excited. So yeah, for me, it was that sort of stuff. Like they were just rhyming off stuff there in just like 1 minute. I'm like, oh, I wish I could remember everything. I can't remember what kind of shoes he had. He had like the shoes of Icarus or something that he hopped around
Okay,
on.
what were they? The leaping shoes of... I can't remember.
Or something.
And then there was the eye, his eye, which was the eye of Agraroth.
Well, right? The eye of Agamotto.
Agamotto, sorry, yes. I got that one wrong.
Which turned out to be the time gem.
Yes,
Infinity
the
gem.
eye of Agamotto. Plus, he had his cape of levitation.
Yeah.
There's more trinkets, like even some that I recognize, like the Staff of Watum, and stuff like that. Like stuff that I just recognized from the Marvel Universe. Like, oh, cool.
I wish they would have walked around the Sanctorum a little bit and like introduced some stuff. Like he was holding an urn or a vase, and he's like, "Do you even know how to use that thing?" He looks at me, shoots it at his head. I'm like, "What was that?" Like, and it was glowing on the inside. So to me, it was that sort of stuff. They're really feeding my inner nerd because I do like the Doctor Strange stuff. I like when Doctor Strange meets like grounded heroes like Spider-Man and things, and they go off together on adventures and things. So for me, that was the good part. The bad. Okay. I really wish they would have developed Caecilius a lot better. Like, they started the movie with him. Immediately, he's bad. I wanted to see him be that star pupil that everybody was talking about. Like, he was really good, like you, Doctor Strange. He was picking up stuff really quick, blah, 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 and then he just lost his way. I want to see him lose his way. And it doesn't even have to be a big scene. Maybe 5 minutes at the start. Just showing, like, boom, wow, you learned that... Learn to use I can't remember what, the zip ring or whatever the hell those rings were.
Yeah, it's helped them teleport.
Was it a key ring?
I can't. It had a name.
There was so many trinkets.
There's so
much going on in this movie. Like,
but I wish they would have had that just so that you got the parallel between the two of them. Because it's one thing for them to say it. It's another thing to see it.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see, because Doctor Strange had a crossroad. Because he was being told, he's like, the Ancient One isn't all good and everything. She's doing some bad stuff that she's not telling you. That crossroad didn't really mean anything for me, because they didn't really show Caecilius being a good guy at first. He was always bad. So, to me, Marvel threw away another bad guy, and then Dormammu at the end. They threw that one away, too.
I think they threw that away?
I totally think
they did. Well, Dormammu was going to be back.
All they had was a head. Now, Dormammu has a goddamn body.
I knew he wasn't going to like this.
No, I didn't. I didn't like the way they portrayed him at all.
But he starts out as a giant head, and then... He doesn't have to have a body.
He didn't even start off as a head. He started off as basically like this electrified sperm, if you will. And then eventually, through time and energy, they got some corporeal form. So to me, it was...
He doesn't... The way I felt, he doesn't need to go to corporeal form because he doesn't... He just exists in his dimension, and then when Strange goes in there, he almost did it for his benefit to be afraid of him or something.
Right, and which didn't work at all. He wasn't afraid at all.
Wouldn't it be safe to say he's a bit omnipotent in the fact that he's just absolutely careless of other life around him anyway? Because it just...
To me, it just squandered you. We have this biggest head in the universe that is controlling this entire dimension. Stephen Strange just walks in and he's like, hey, I'm here to bargain. And then he does it over and over, and there was no stakes. There was no pressure. There was no weight. It meant nothing. It literally took Dormammu, this super powerful crazy guy, and then forced his hand right off the top. And I didn't like that. Oh, another good part is when he
So
did
you didn't
that.
like how he tricked him in, like he set the time loop
I
with
didn't
the
like the
eye
bad
of
guys in the movie.
Agamotto.
The antagonists in the movie were terribly done. I love Mad Mikkelsen. Like, he did a really good job with what he had. But they needed to show him turn to a bad guy, not be bad, start to finish, and you don't really know why. Because it took the stakes away. Mm-hmm. It took away Stephen Strange's decision to be good with these powers that he's got. It took away just so much weight and gravitas that the movie needed. And it just... There you go.
Really?
Yeah, it took it away.
It's funny that you.
I don't know. It's funny that we all give it the same rating and you feel that way about it.
Because there was so much nerdgasm going on throughout the whole movie. Like, even when the bad guys lost, the antagonists lost, I don't know if you recognize this, but they turned into the mindless ones.
Yes, I did notice.
That was cool. So there was another nod. Now, no non-nerd would get that. And that was another problem, is they never really explained to non-nerd people enough.
I think you got another thing that does kind of bug me too. You're right. Dormammu was this all-powerful being. And, I mean...
Even the ancient one, like, she's like, I don't want to use his power. And then you go there, and it's like, who gives a shit?
It's basically,
kicked
just
down
like
the
a
door.
mosquito, bothering you nonstop over and over again.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, go away, go away.
But in this scenario, the mosquito fucking wins, no problem. Like, shoot me, you ruined two good antagonists.
Yeah, but Dormammu was going to be back. Don't be worried about that.
He's going to be back, but I just found, like, this climactic ending was kind of like...
It was losing ground for
it.
him.
I thought it was kind of cool how he did it, but I also thought it was funny. It was like Dormammu was just like, oh, I can't be bothered with this pest right now, and I'm just gonna agree to his terms so he just stops bothering me. You know,
he wants Earth so bad that he literally just
he lets a gnat stop him.
Yeah, and again, just the gravitas gone. It meant nothing.
He's like, every time he kills the mosquito, it keeps respawning and comes back after him. So if you think about it, that's actually pretty annoying. Think about, like, being in your comfort zone, you're, like, all up in your shit, and you're just, like, and all of a sudden you hear, like...
It took away a 0.5 or maybe even a whole point away, just the way that they dealt with the bad guys in the movie. Again, I find that Marvel really can't hit the bad guy run very well.
Yeah.
Loki was the only one that did it for me.
He's the only one that did really good.
Like, you saw him be good... and then turned bad, and you knew why he was doing it. Caecilius, what are you doing, man? You're bad start to finish. And I have to believe Mordo saying that you were a good guy this whole time. Like, and then turns out, spoiler alert, Mordo is bad as well.
Well, we knew that.
Well, and I knew
That's
that
his
too.
rival.
I did know that too, so that wasn't a surprise.
I do remember you and I, Jpar, having a discussion about the theory of whether or not I keep calling him Steven, Dr. Strange, when he would actually force himself into that loop, and force Dormammu's hand and doing what he did, the bargain, as he kept putting it.
Yeah.
Our theory was, is it really a selfless act when... See, the real theory was he remembering the pain he would go through after every single death loop?
Exactly.
Because, here's my theory. I always wondered that maybe not, because the physical remembering of the pain... He may not remember. He may remember suddenly
be gone as soon as the loop starts over again.
Yeah. So my theory was whether or not he did not feel any of it, knowing so, because he set that loop to begin every time he died. Set foot on that little asteroid scenario, surface. So the second he set it, that was the reset moment, right? Well, at that moment, he hadn't physically felt the pain yet. So how would he remember it if it didn't happen? So he is stuck in this loop. Which no one wants to get stuck in a loop, let's face it. That's just wrong in a lot of ways. Even for, a god, of the dark realm, But it just got to the point where it was such an interesting little, twist. But it bothered the crap out of me, the fact that we didn't know whether, if he didn't remember the pain...
Well, because he did everything he did throughout the movie, and they mentioned it, was that he did it for himself. And the one act that he wasn't doing for himself was putting himself in that time loop of Dormammu continuing him over and over and over again. And what he say is like, well, you'll be stuck here forever. And he's like, yeah, but at least they'll live. Talking about, the people on Earth, basically. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
so that's supposed to be his selfless act, but then that's what I was like, wait a minute, is it really, how much of a sacrifice is it if you actually don't remember all the pain and agony that you're going through? But if you do have to remember all that pain and agony and all that torture that Dormammu put you through, then yes, that is an awful thing to go through.
And at the same time, it would still be believable if he still retained that memory, because he said it himself. He's accustomed to pain. They're old friends, you know. I forget.
Yeah, that's what he said. It's an old friend. Yeah.
But we saw him go through the turmoil. It was unfortunate that it went in such a short period of time. His healing process was just kind of escalated, and then all of a sudden he's at the doorstep of the Ancient One, trying to figure out another method of getting healed. So yeah, that was all rushed. So.
All right, not to hijack your favorite and least favorite.
No, that's fine. I think I said it all. The trinkets, nerdgasm, the bad guys took away a point from me, so.
All right, so we kind of did all end up in the same spot. I really wanted to give this movie a 4, and it still is a really good, solid movie. Like, I'd like to almost make an exception and say 3.75 for this, but I can't. I gotta stick to my guns, 3.5. It'll stick that way for now. But it's always a funny thing doing new reviews versus old movies, because old movies, we get so used to them and we start falling in love with them. They start becoming a comfort. So I notice for myself, I tend to review movies a little bit higher when it has that comfort zone or it just feels familiar. Doctor Strange, this is a new venture for me. Like, maybe over time this could be something that grows on me, but then again, maybe I'll watch it again and I will find more holes in it, or I won't like it as much. So always take these reviews a little bit with a grain of salt. New movies, they could be one of our favorites, and something that we didn't like at first could become our favorites, and something that we really liked could become not as good later. It's really just a matter of opinion. Everyone's got their own, and that's what movies are all about, really.
Well put.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I think we have to go to the Facebook page right now, because someone has named off the last scene that we were the name that caption, or whatever we call this damn thing.
Whatever we call this goddamn thing.
Name the scene. Anyways, anyone who's been on our Facebook page will know if they go on there every once in a while. I like to throw up a little caption from a movie, and I get you guys to guess what it is, and I give you something called promise points. Now, that's the one.
Okay.
And our 3 points goes out to Corey Gibson, who named Gremlins correctly. He will be joining the ranks of the other promise point leaders, and we will be putting an image up on that Facebook page for that. So, closing out for Doctor Strange, is there anything that anyone wants to add here?
Go watch the movie. I took my fiance, who is not a comic fan, and she enjoyed herself. She laughed. She didn't cry, but she thought it was a pretty good movie.
Has she cried when she's left some superhero movies?
You know what? I'm trying to think if there was one that actually had a sad ending, and no, I don't think there really
Guardians
was.
of the Galaxy had a sad beginning.
Yeah, you know what? I cried. I had that
It got
goddamn
Guardians of the Galaxy
tear.
got me.
I was pointing at my tear, but it didn't care. It came down.
You're not coming out of my eye, bro. You're staying in there.
But it did. It was, that was a sad starting.
You just got all New Jersey up on it, and it stayed in your eyeball.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Honestly, if you're not into these Marvel movies, you need to get into these Marvel movies. Start with Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a great one to start with. And if you like that, then maybe you can explore these other ventures like Doctor Strange. You don't have to be a fan of Marvel movies or superhero movies to appreciate Doctor Strange. It's kind of a little bit different with the magic aspect to it. So I say definitely go check it out. And Boo, any final thoughts on there?
No, you guys pretty much hit the dead on the nail. Honestly, if you're just not too sure where to start from all of the Avengers movies that are out right about now, honestly, this wouldn't be a bad start. You know, it's actually introducing you to a different realm anyway, so I'd say go for it.
All right, so as per usual, you can like us on Facebook. You can always join the conversation at We Promise Nothing. Apparently, we're on Instagram, We Promise Nothing with the G. I've never looked at it, so I just assume it's there because that's what people tell me.
Yeah, it's there.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
And am I missing anything? Am I
You
missing
didn't
a
say
plug?
Twitter.
I did say Twitter. We Promise
did you?
Nothing. Drop the G.
Without a G, yeah.
Without a G, drop the G. Doesn't matter. Either way, it's We Promise Nothing. You can always talk to us there. Once again, this is Jpar signing out.
This is Myles going on a magic carpet ride.
Ooh.
Da Boo going bye-bye.
And remember, if you disagree with anything that you hear today, or if we named any of these magical trinkets incorrectly, you can leave a comment below. But as always, we promise nothing! Good night!